What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your host here, AK, and as always, I'm your intrepid host on this video. Well, I had a little idea while I was watching some sort of, I don't want to say military propaganda, but basically it was sort of talking about what the kit that the British military use when they're on patrol in and overseas and whatever else, and it got me thinking, how many of the weapons in Call of Duty could you make to look like either British or German or American, even Russian military weapons? So I thought I'd give it a go. So basically what I put together here are three of the main sort of weapons that the British military use. You have the S87, even though I'm not sure they don't use the S87, it's like the L85A2 now. There isn't sort of an appropriate approximation for the machine gun that they use, the light machine gun, so I had to use the M91, but I tried to style it as much as possible. I tried to look at the way the guns looked overall and try to pick weapons that sort of looked similar, or as similar as possible, until they actually add a weapon that looks like or is the gun that the British military use. Then unfortunately this is what we have. It's an approximation of what it might look like, or sort of as close to the real thing as possible, I would say. That's the sort of premise that I've gone here for. It's very similar to my UMP45 video, which a lot of people have pointed out to me that it doesn't really necessarily look exactly like UMP45. However, until they add it into the game, you're not going to be able to actually use an UMP or a UMP45, and that's the only alternative you've got. If you want to have a look at that, there'll be a link somewhere down below to watch that video. It's over on my channel, just go have a look for it. It's super easy to do. You just got to use your thumbs or your fingers, depending on what you're using. I don't know, you might be an octopus person and might use tentacles. It's completely irrelevant. Anyway, I'm getting woefully off topic. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to show you on screen the weapon loadout, and then I'm going to show you how it sort of feels to use in game. I'm playing against bots. The reason I decided to use bots was because I wanted to have not really sort of basically I wanted it so that you could see how the gun performed, not under duress, if that makes sense. And I must say a lot of the guns really did perform quite well. I'm not a huge fan of light machine guns and sitting and camping and sort of stuff. I'm more of a mobile player, but to get the footage and to show you how they work and how their sort of what their strengths are and what else, I decided to do it this way. Anyway, so I'm gonna let the video roll. You've listened to me waffle on far too long, and pretty much I might give commentary here and there if need be. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the video. So the first weapon we're going to be seeing is obviously an M4A1 with a Corvus barrel, but it's supposed to be the L129A1 rifle, which is classified as a sharpshooter rifle. The only difference is I couldn't find a scope that looked similar to the one on the gun itself, so we're going to use the variable zoom, as I assume the gun itself would have some degree of a variable zoom on it. So So the pistol here is the X16, which is basically the game's Glock, and as far as I'm aware, that's what the British Armed Forces use. Some of them use the Sig Sauer, which sort of looks like an M1911, so if you wanted to use that, you're more than welcome to do so. I can do a further video on the clarification of what that gun should sort of look like. And to be fair, it handles pretty well. It's a pistol at the end of the day. This guy scares me. Oh god, that actually made me jump. But it's actually a pretty good pistol. It does what a pistol says on the tin. It takes a few bullets to kill people. And there you go. That's good. This is fantastic headshots though. Like, literally fantastic headshots. If you've got pinpoint accuracy, this is good. Like, pow, right in the kisser. And they're at cold. Pow, right in the kisser. That's brilliant. Now next up, this is supposed to be the L7A2 machine gun. Unfortunately, there aren't that many guns that look very similar to it. It doesn't obviously have the carry handle over the top, which is quite indicative of the British light machine gun, but it was the closest approximation to the gun itself that I could find. However, I'm not sure what sort of optic they use, as I can't seem to find any images with an optic on, even though I've searched for optics, and it comes up with those things that give you alcohol in a bar. So there you go, that's always fun. But this actually, to be fair, handled quite well. It's scoped in reasonably fast for the fact that it has a ridiculously long barrel and a default stock on it. But it actually, you know, dropped people pretty quickly. And it looks pretty cool doing so. It actually, even when it's not mounted and whatever else, it still handles fairly decently. So I was quite pleased with this. If I ever decide to run with an M91 or whatever, I will probably use this sort of setup. And finally, we have essentially the L8-5A3 rifle, or the 5A2, whichever variant you really want to pretend it is. I try to match it as closely as possible to the pictures that I have and have seen available, although I'm not sure what sort of optic they run with it. Unfortunately, there's not really a lot of sort of to go by the pictures that I've got, and I'm not sure what sort of actual reticle they would use. But I do play around with different optics to see which, you know, feels and looks better. And this one looks possibly like the closest approximation to the picture that I have of the 2019 service rifle for the military, the L8-5A3. So this one seems to be the best fit. Anyway, that about wraps it up. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like. If you didn't, a dislike. If you're new, like the content, hit that subscribe button, tickle your bell so you don't miss any content from me. And as always, I'll see you in the next iteration. Thank you very much for watching. Well, blow me down backwards, you're still here. That's fantastic news. Well, I'm going to pop off and make myself a cup of tea. Have a couple of cheeky biscuits. Feel free to click on whatever video takes your fancy. And if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.